Hello and welcome to another teacher training webinar from elttraining.com. My name is Jo Gakonga and I'm hoping in the next 30 or 40 minutes to give you a few ideas for your further development. Today we're going to look at CPD using ICT and PLMs. If that all sounds like double Dutch to you, then I'm talking about continuing professional development using information communication technology, computers basically, and the web, and personal learning networks. That one might be less familiar to you. I'll talk more about those later. Essentially what I'm talking about today is using the net and the facilities that are available through it for continuing professional development. I've worked in a lot of different institutions in my ESOL career, and they vary a lot. So there are lots of institutions out there that are really supportive and that have a great programme of continuing professional development, that may run in-house seminars, that may send you to conferences, where the staff room is a place where people share ideas and talk about language teaching and learning. And these kind of institutions are a joy and a treasure. So if you work somewhere like that, be very grateful. There are, however, lots of other institutions, and I've worked in those too, where this isn't the case, where it's very easy to feel quite isolated as a teacher. I think teaching can be quite an isolating profession. You can be in your classroom on your own and not have very much support from your colleagues or your institution. And until pretty recently, that was difficult to do very much about on your own. But I think in the fairly recent past, there's now a real difference that it's very, very possible to be connected with a wide range of other teachers in a wide range of other situations, and to get a lot of practical help as well as support for your development on an ongoing way. So we're going to run through a range of different things today. The first being professional publications, and then we'll look at online training courses that you can do without having to pay for them. Lots of information on blogs, lots of nice blogs, conferences and webinars, Twitter and Facebook, community pages that are provided for the ELT community, particularly by publishers, and finally Scoop.it sites. There'll be lots of URLs along the way, so what I would say is there's a lot of information here. Do feel free to break off, have a look at some of the different websites, explore and see what works for you, and then maybe come back a bit later. One of the ways that you can help yourself to develop, and this is not new, this is very old technology and very much paper and pencil stuff, is reading professional publications. The difference, I guess, nowadays is that the access to them is quite easy because of the internet. You can get everything online very easily. Some of this is free. Most of it you do have to pay for, but it's usually a bit cheaper if you do it online. So I want to have a look at 3 publications, 2 of which you do have to pay for and 1 of which is free. But if you personally can't afford to pay for it, you might also think about getting your institution possibly to pay for a copy that may be shareable within the staff room or whatever. This is the first one I want to look at. I really, really like this magazine. It comes out 4 times a year, I think. English Teaching Professional. It's a very practical magazine, so it has lots and lots of things in there, which, although there's things of general interest and more sort of developmental articles, there's also a lot in there that's quite practical, things that you can take and do in the classroom. The web address for it is this, and if you go to this address, I'll show you in just a second, you can look at a sample copy, so you can actually have a look and see if you think it would be suitable for you. So let's go and have a look at that now. So here's the website for ETP. You can see that they've got a sample here of their different latest issues, and if you scroll down the page a little bit, you'll see here that you can view a sample online edition. So if we have a look at that, you'll be able to see that the magazine comes up in a digital copy. You can actually turn the pages, which is quite nice, I always think, or perhaps more easily you can just come up here and click over. If we go back here to the contents, you can see that you've got quite a few different things here. So Teaching the Unteachables here, he's talking about teenagers, I think. There's also quite grammatical things, often quite big ELT names here. Rod Belitho, he's put in something, and but there's Alan Maley here, has a regular column over the wall, which is nice. It's always about books and not particularly ELT based, but quite nice. There's also things about teaching young learners specifically, teacher development, technology. Russell Stannard does his Web Watcher page here, and describes different tools which are useful. And then there's other regular features. It's a good read, and there's lots of nice things in here. But as I say, you can have a look and see if there's anything in here that you think would be of help to you or to your institution possibly. You can, with these, which is also quite nice with this publication, you can print pages from this section, so you can choose pages and print them off if you wanted to as well. Another publication I like a lot actually is this, The Modern English Teacher, MET, and the web address is that for it. This is it's published by the same people as the English Teaching Professional, but it's not an academic paper at all, but it's slightly more that way inclined than ETP, which is much more practical, I suppose. So it tends to have slightly more academic-y type articles in it, although as I say, it's still very readable and very useful and very much based in the classroom, so it's not applied linguistics particularly, and there's a lot of really interesting stuff in here. You can see in this volume here, for example, you've got Twitter demystified, and various bits and pieces. Again, we'll have a look at a sample copy and you can see what I mean. So here we are at the trial page of the Modern English Teacher. I have to say that the website for this particular one is not as user-friendly as ETP. I don't really understand why, because they're the same publishing company, but anyway, that's the case. You can see that they're laid out in a very similar kind of way. So here you've got things about language. This Idiot's Guide to Big Grammar Items is quite a regular feature. There's other things here as well, practical ideas again, so it does have some practical ideas. It's in lots of ways, it's not that different to ETP, but this is slightly more heavyweight, I suppose. Technology things, other bits and pieces, have a look at one or two. So obviously got the editorial here. Let's just flick through a couple of pages. It just might take a couple of minutes to load, obviously a couple of seconds to load there when you get onto new pages. So if we have a look at the section about language, there's particular pieces. So here, this idea about adding en to the root of a verb, for example. And you can see this, that goes into some detail about this kind of thing. So it's quite interesting, I think. Prepositions of experience and expressions of time. So there are sort of language-based things in here, and then other things which are very practical, I suppose, methodological. So communicative competence here. What other things have they got in here? But then, as I say here, Alex Case, we'll talk about him later. He's got a really good blog. We've got some ideas, very practical ideas about using drawing games. So there's quite a lot of practical stuff as well. But as I say, of the two, the focus is slightly more towards the theoretical with the modern English teacher. But they're both very good, and you know, I'd recommend both of them quite highly, actually. Well, I promised you a free one, and here it is, the EL Gazette. This is the only English language newspaper that I know of, and it does come in newspaper form, so you can buy it in print form, but it's actually free in digital form. And so there are two websites associated with this. This first one here with the elgazettedigital.com, that will take you to a place where you can sign up for a digital copy, and then it'll just drop an email in your inbox every month, I think it is. It might be 2 months. I'm not entirely sure, actually. Sorry, I should have checked that. But anyway, regularly it'll drop a thing in your email box, and you can read it online. So it does have news about the English language teaching world, not just about the UK or anything else, but internationally, things that happen in the news that are of interest to language teachers, such as visa changes or different things that are happening in different parts of the world in terms of language teaching. Maybe a particular country is taking more CLIL type learning across its curriculum or something of that nature. It's also got some practical things in it. And if you go to this second website here, this elgazette.com website, you can see that there's down here, there's all sorts of different things as well. So there are resources here, free downloads, and here there's all sorts of, so this is where you can download past articles on various things. And there's also some lesson plans there as well. So I think that's a useful thing to know as well. If you go to this site, and you can see here it says newsletter and subscribe, you can subscribe to the newsletter, but it does say here subscribe, and there's a payment if you want the paper version, if you want it in your hot little hand coming through your post box. But as I say, if you go to this eldigital.com address, then you'll find that you can sign up for the free digital copy. That doesn't cost you anything. So we've looked at some publications, and clearly those are really useful things that you can have and learn from over time. But something that's a bit more webby based, and perhaps you didn't know about so much, are the sort of things that you can do online, training courses that you can do online. Now, there are plenty of training courses that you can do online which you'll have to pay for, some of which are very good. As with anything else, there are bound to be some which are better and some which are worse. I have to say that I haven't had enough experience of any of them yet to be able to give you any very good advice on that. But this particular set of training courses are free. Now, I'm putting this out probably slightly too late for this year, because the 2012 sessions, you have to sign up basically in the first week of January, between the 2nd and the 8th of January, and then the courses run for 5 weeks from January the 9th. But these do happen every year, so if you don't manage to get onto it this year, it's worth keeping an eye out for it for next year, because there's all sorts of things that are really, really great, and the people who run these things are really dedicated, interesting, lovely people, who none of whom I've met in person, but who I have quite a lot of contact with online, and they really do put a lot of work into this stuff, so it's worth having a look at. So here we are on this website, the Electronic Village Online. So if we go down, you can see that there's quite a few different sessions. So this Becoming a Webhead, this one is something that it's a long-standing community of practice of language teachers. This guy, Vance Stevens, puts in so much work, it's quite incredible. He's always online doing webinars and various other things, very, very active, and does a lot, very supportive for all sorts of teachers. There's a drama workshop here, digital storytelling for young learners, digital tools with purpose in the classroom. Here we go, my PLEs and PLNs, here we go. Looking at these personal learning environments, you see, and personal learning networks. So looking at that and how to develop your own network. We've got audio here, games, multiliteracies, social networking, video production, teaching English to young learners, mentoring skills, Moodle, podcasting, social. You can see there's an enormous amount of tutoring here with Web 2.0 tools. There's such a great variety of things here, and in all of these sessions they're 5 weeks, and it's free, and you can learn a lot from these different people, and also connect with a lot of other people over, in other places. And that to me is one of the great strengths of this sort of thing, is that you just connect with a lot of other people who are also interested, and that's really motivating as a teacher. So this is really, really worth bearing in mind. If you don't manage to do it this year, then I'd really, really recommend that you keep it in mind and maybe have a go next year. They do it each year, as far as I'm aware. So that's definitely one to remember. So we've looked at professional publications and some of the free training courses that are available. I think one of the really major ways that you can learn online is through blogs. There's a couple of different reasons to look at blogs. I think one of the first really is for practical ideas and just for your own learning. There's a lot of good stuff that's being put out there, so that you don't have to go buy huge amounts of resource books. There's a lot of extra stuff out there and a lot of interesting ideas that people are putting out there. And also I just think that it helps you feel quite connected with different people, and that is important, I think, for your future development. It just helps you feel not so isolated, and it's possible just to feel connected in quite a sort of a passive, lurky kind of way. So you can I know a lot of people who don't know me, for example. I know lots of people's names because they come up very often on the web, but they have no idea who I am because I've never contacted them, whatever. But there's a feeling of these people are in my sphere, if you like, and it's nice to have them there because they're interesting teachers who are motivating. And I think that's a really great thing as a teacher, particularly if you're somewhere where you're maybe a little bit remote or you don't have access to a lot of development. It's nice to feel as if you're not alone. Now, this is a great long list. We'll look at one or two of these, but these are some that I particularly like in terms of practical ideas. The one at the top, clearly I really like that one because it's mine, so maybe we'll have a look at that one first. So this is my blog. It has a number of tools that you might find useful to use with learners, either in class or mainly probably outside of class for homework and that kind of thing. So if you come down the blog, there's different tools described. Here's some of the popular posts here. Warwish is a great one. This is nice, a picture's worth. So they all have links to different sites as well. There's also, if we come further down, some blogs that I like, and if you come further down still, you can choose to look at, if you're looking for a site that's got a particular aspect to it, then there's some ideas there. I haven't put anything on it very recently. Well, I've had over 3,000 pages. That's quite satisfying. Somebody thinks it's all right. So with each one, I describe how you could use it, and hopefully that's helpful. This is another one of the websites that I really like, the blogs I really like. Nick Peachy, who writes, is a bit of a dynamo. He does all sorts of stuff too, a lot of blogging and various other things, and he's got lots of nice ideas. He's always got some great ideas for new tools that you can use. So this one's finding out about your dreams. This is the daily English activities. He's got other blogs, so a learning technology blog, technology tips. So he does all of these other things as well, and he's worth having a look at. You can sign up as well and ask for a monthly newsletter or occasional newsletter. That's quite useful, keeps you up to date with what he's doing. But there is a lot of nice things in here, so it's really worth having a look at. So you can see that there's a whole range of things here. I'm not going to go through them all, clearly you can, but a real nice range of different blogs here, and this is just a small section of what's available. You tend to find one from another. You know, other people will recommend different blogs to you, but those are some nice ones at least. Those ones are all quite practical. There's a few here which are perhaps less practical, maybe more of general interest or development. There's a bit of a, I suppose it's a bit of a grey area between often, because some of these, the Alex Case one, the Tefltastic, this one here, is also has lots of practical ideas, as well as his thoughts on all manner of ELT related paraphernalia. Sean Banville as well has great sites. He's the person behind the breakingnewsenglish.com. If you haven't come across that, that's really worth having a look at. Lots and hundreds, thousands of lesson plans for you based on authentic newspaper texts. And then you've got Ken Wilson here, who blogs and has guest bloggers on his blog, where it's a sort of a gentle chat rather than anything very esoteric, but it's nice. So I think again with a lot of these, it's a case of making you feel as if you're more connected, perhaps. There's one it's my favourite blog, and I look at it quite regularly, and as I wouldn't want to finish without mentioning him, and that's Scott Thornberry's blog here, which is called the A to Z of ELT, and we'll just go and have a look at that now. This is a really great blog. He's very regular, he blogs once a week on this, about all sorts of topics. So you can see the last few got visualisation, voice setting, forensic linguistics, text-based curriculum, all sorts of different things to do with ELT. Not sort of overly long, very manageable little chunks of things to think about, really. I like him a lot. He's, to my mind, speaks quite a lot of sense about various issues, and he's very knowledgeable. So that's quite nice. You can sign up somewhere, I guess probably here with the RSS feed. You can sign up so that you can get a newsletter every week when he sends out, when he puts up his blog. It'll send you a little email to tell you that it's there. So that's quite nice. I quite like receiving that every week. And you can also see then that there's usually quite a long chain of comments on these topics. So if you come down to here, then there's 25 comments on this. And it's quite nice to see people's comments and see the thread of people's discussions on this. So again, I think it's that idea of being in a staff room almost, where people are talking about things which are interesting and discussing things, and you have just as much right to put your tuppenny worth in as anybody else. And I think that ability to be able to participate, or just lurk if you just choose to read, with people who are at the top of their field is really nice and very levelling. So I think it's a very sort of democratic kind of medium from that point of view. But I would really recommend this blog particularly. I like it a lot. So do have a look at Scott Thornbury. I think there's nothing as nice or as motivating or as inspirational as going to a conference. It's great to meet a range of people from other situations. It's great to go and listen to people who you respect and admire, maybe whose work you've read, speak about it. It just is a really nice environment. But for the majority of us, it involves expense and time off work and travel, and all of these things aren't necessarily always possible. So I think it's great if you can still participate, at least in a passive way, online. All of the IATEFL conferences now are available online, so you can't get all of the sessions, but a selection of them, especially the plenaries, and a selection of others are recorded, so you can watch recordings. And if you are watching at the time, I think there's a chance for forums as well, so you can participate to some extent in a live way. The conference takes place every Easter, so I've got the URLs here for the last two, Brighton and Harrogate. But this year it's in Glasgow, and that will be online as well. So let's go and have a look at one of the websites and see what we've got. So here's the website for Brighton, for the conference from last year, and you can see that here you can look onto the sessions that have been recorded. You can look for all the sessions, or you can look at the ones that have been videoed. That's probably the easiest to look at. And then, as I say, if you look down here and think about which one you'd like to watch, there's all sorts of different ones here. Let's have a little look. This plenary by Tom Farrell was really good, actually. I was there for a couple of days. So you just click on that, and hopefully, there you go. So you can't actually be there perhaps, but you can see what happened. So it's second best and it's free. So as well as the conferences, there are also lots of other free webinars on the web. So I've just put a couple of examples up here, but there are lots more out there. One that's I hear a lot about is Shelley Terrell's Friday webinars. These are just half an hour each, and if you go to this, clearly it's live every Friday, but if you go to this web address here, then all of the recordings are there from previous Friday webinars. So there's webinars on a really wide range of subjects. And of course I had to put mine in too, so do have a look at any past recordings if you haven't looked before. I haven't got so many yet, but it will build, I hope. So just a couple of other things that might be helpful. Twitter has got quite a bad press, I think, for all sorts of reasons, not least for the just general sort of mediocrity of what people tweet. But I think used as a professional tool, it has huge power. So if you develop a bit of a network and follow some people whose work you respect and admire, then you tend to get a lot of ideas passed through to you. Now, I don't tweet hugely often, but I just put out a tweet if I find something that I particularly like. Usually, a web tool, or maybe a web page or a blog or something of that nature. If you would like to follow me, I'm Jay Gakonga. But there's a lot out there that I say if you follow a few people, and I think it's important to be maybe a little bit careful about who you follow, because you don't want vast quantities of rubbish. What you want is small quantities manageable quantities of something that will be useful. So I think don't feel as if you have to follow everybody who follows you, for example, but do have a look at people's tweets before you follow them and see if they've got, if they're sending out things which you think would be helpful for you. But it is very, very powerful, and I think worth not dismissing out of hand at least. The other one like that, of course, is Facebook. Now, a lot of you may have a personal Facebook account already, and I think there's a question there about the personal versus the professional. I don't use Facebook very much, but I do have two different Facebook accounts. So one is my family and friends, and one is my professional colleagues and people that I've met via the net. So if you'd like to connect with me on Facebook, please do so to Joe Kakonga. That's my professional one. I think it kind of is important to keep the two apart, otherwise it does start to become, I think, a potentially little bit embarrassing all around, actually. So that's something maybe to be a bit, wary about. And I guess the same with Twitter, really, that I only use it as a professional tool, so I don't have that issue with that one particularly. But it might be worth, you might want two different accounts perhaps. Something else to think about is a lot of the publishers are now putting websites up where you've got community type experiences where you can connect with people, and there are forums and this sort of thing, as well as downloadable materials, things. So here's one that I've just recently come across. Most of the big publishing houses now are doing something similar. I know Cambridge, if they haven't already got one, they're certainly thinking about it or developing it as we speak. So it might be worth looking at those sort of things too. They can be quite helpful. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there. And the final thing I wanted to look at is this. Now, I think this is a really, really useful tool for connecting people and for finding really great information. So it's called Scoop.it, and you can make your own Scoop.it site, or you can look at other people's. And essentially what a Scoop.it site is, it's just a place on the web where you can put, it says gorgeous magazines, but that makes it sound quite difficult, whereas actually it's incredibly easy. And it's really just a place for you to put all the websites that you think are useful about a particular subject. So it's then a place where people can go and look for information on a particular tool and a particular sort of area of expertise, and I just think it's really, really useful. I'll show you some of the sites. Two of these are mine and another one is somebody else's, but there's lots and lots of others, and so you get links to different ones as well. You can find different ones. But I'll show you what I mean. So if we look at this first one, the ELT training one. So this is what the site looks like. And essentially all it is a place, repository if you like, for links to other places. So here, for example, there's the ELT community, the Pearson thing we've just looked at, Jeremy Harmer's blog, and as I say, if you just click on there, it will take you to Jeremy Harmer's blog with a little minute for reflection. There we go. So you can easily get to this kind of thing. This is another nice blog. We talked about blogs before. Okay. So going back then, there's a lot of things we've talked about, the Free Friday webinars, Ken Wilson's blog, various other bits and pieces in here. These are quite nice to keep because you can see here that I've got 3 reactions to it. So different people have re-scooped it and they have their own Scoop.it sites. So if I go to this one, eTivities, so here again there's lots of activities for an online learning environment, so it's quite easy to to keep following different kind of sites and get to different places. As I say here, there are quite a few different things. And this was the other one. This is another Scoop.it site that I particularly like, the CPD in education. Sue Lyon-Jones is someone else who does a lot on the web, and you can see that there's 3,500 views of this. Clearly she's well thought of. So you can see that there's lots of things on here. So it's really a case of, the trouble with the internet mainly is that there's so much stuff out there that it's quite hard to sift the wheat from the trash, and from the chaff, I suppose it's the expression, isn't it? But this is a way of you doing that, or somebody doing it for you. So having found a lot of useful things from the huge amount of stuff that is out there. Here, for example, you can see here there's a blog spot here which is particularly about using Twitter for teachers and giving you ideas about how to use Twitter to build this personal learning network. We haven't really talked about this as much as I'd planned, but essentially what a personal learning network is knowing other people, even if you don't actually know them, but knowing where their sites are and being able to find information via Twitter, via Facebook, particularly those kind of those kinds of social networking sites, or professional networking sites. So you can see, as I say, there's a lot of stuff here, and I think that these things are very helpful, as I say, for giving you here a chunk of good information, because that's often what's needed, is not just any information but good information. So those are the websites for, as I say, I actually have 4 of these Scoop.it sites, one for ELT training, one for lesson ideas on the web, and 2 more, one for learners' ideas and one for grammar. The links to those are on my ELT training website if you're interested. So we've had a look at a range of ways that you can help yourself to continually professionally develop. I hope that some of those ideas have been useful. Do let me know how you get on, or if you find anything else that's useful that I might like to know about. It's all about sharing. Thank you very much, and see you next month. Bye bye.